So now I would like to invite Stephanie Yanchinski to the stage. And she is an excellent colleague of ours that works at the Resnick Sustainability Institute at the California Institute of Technology. And she'll be moderating our panel called Supporting the Pipeline of Clean Energy Innovation, and really focusing on what do entrepreneurs need most to be successful to get to that next stage. So Stephanie, if you could join us on stage. Okay, I think our team is working with Stephanie to get her on the stage. And then I will just go over who the panelists are. We have Davood Zamani from ALD Technical Solutions, Jonathan Tan from Coreshell, Etosha Cave from Opus 12, Joseph Gelagos from Umida AG, and Burnett Brown from Green Tech Motors. Stephanie will be up on the stage shortly, and my colleague Lauren is going to be working with her to ensure that the panel gets started in a moment. Oh.
Hi, Finley. I just sent Stephanie controls. So Stephanie, you should be able to turn your mic and camera on, and then we'll be able to see you on stage.
And those controls are at the bottom of your screen. If necessary, perhaps we could invite the panelists to begin while we're working with Stephanie, and then Stephanie, once she gets on stage, can moderate. So we're going to start with Davood from ALD Technical Solutions, and Davood can go ahead and begin. He can join me on stage if he clicks, and there you are. Hi, Davood.
Hey.
Excellent to see you. And if you want to go ahead and start with your presentation, I will hop.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. I am Davood from ALD Technical Solution. We are so excited to be selected for CalTestBed 2020 program. And I would like to thank CEC, New Energy Nexus, and CalTestBed team to give us this opportunity to take our technology to the next step. ALD Technical Solution is a women-owned clean tech startup founded in 2018 in San Diego, California. Our mission is to leverage the potential of advanced composite materials by developing new innovative technologies in clean and renewable energies. Due to penetration of renewable energies, our existing edge grid infrastructure is not able to transmit all of the produced energies, specifically during high demand hours. At ALD Technical Solution, our composite wire wrap technology, which has been patented recently, is a lightweight, fast and easy to install, long-lasting, reliable, environmentally friendly, cost-effective structural composite reinforcement system, which will be installed and cured in place around existing ACSR transmission lines, which will increase the power capacity and will decrease the sagging of the transmission lines. Composite reinforcement system is a multi-layer braided hybrid composite system of carbon as a structural reinforcement component embedded in the basalt fiber as a barrier layer to prevent the galvanic corrosion between carbon fiber and underlayer metals. Composite reinforcement system prepared with high temperature, especially formulated resin, which will be wrapped and applied either continuously or sectional around existing ACSR lines. And we don't need to remove any existing ACSR line. We are just retrofitting and reinforcing without any disconnecting and installing the lines. We have recently developed a partnership with a power transmission line consultant in Germany, Econ Engineering System, that they're gonna partner us for this technology development. And also we are currently working a discussion with 2 utilities in California and 1 utilities in Germany that we can perform on-site demonstration. And for the cal test bed, we are working with the great team at UCLA. And the last thing about commercialization is that we are looking for operators and utilities that we can have a chance to perform on-site pilot run, that we can validate and confirm this technology, which is crucial for our technology for the next step. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Dawood. Sorry, my mic was turned off. We're trying to work with Stephanie to get her on stage. Lauren is talking with her right now. And in the meantime, I am going to move on to our next speaker, which is Jonathan Tan from Coreshell. So if Lauren or one of the Lacey team could bring Jonathan up onto the stage, that would be great. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to pop off and let you do your presentation.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks very much for inviting us here. We're honored to be a part of the Cal Test Bed program this year. At Coreshell, we're solving the key degradation issue in both current and next generation rechargeable batteries, which often lead to the energy loss and the safety concerns that we see in most of our rechargeable battery technology today. We're doing so by applying our unique nano-layer coating directly on the surfaces where these degradation reactions occur inside the battery, specifically on the surface of the anode and on the cathode. What makes us unique is our ability to apply these nano-layer coatings in a uniform and conformal fashion using a low-cost wet coating process. And that's critically important to translating this into a roll-to-roll processing that can fit seamlessly into today's rapidly scaling gigafactory manufacturing system. And that's, I think, what's critically important, and it's been missing from a lot of materials innovations in the battery space, is that scalability factor. And that's a first principle that Coreshell has designed its process from the very beginning. Our goal as a company is to allow affordable and safe electric vehicles and renewable energy storage products by decreasing battery costs by 50% or more in the upcoming decade. And we think that that's critically important to moving those clean energy and zero emission products from a luxury item to something that can be afforded by all ratepayers, and especially those in disadvantaged communities, which have been hit really hard by recent wildfires and need resiliency and renewables on the grid today. So we've been demonstrating our coatings with multiple corporate partners in the space, including BASF, the world's largest cathode producer. We're actively looking for more demonstration partners where we can apply our coatings to their battery materials of choice and really show it off that increased capacity, stability, lifetime, and safety characteristics that are needed to improve battery tech. For the Cal Test Bed program, we're working with a materials project at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab to use computational material science and use supercomputing to do predictive analysis of our coatings in ways that empirical data cannot. So we're excited to be doing that. Thanks again to everyone here, and we're excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate you doing your presentation. We're really excited to hear about Coreshell and have you as part of our community, our Cal Testbed community. We're going to move on to our next speaker, Itasha Cave from Opus 12. If Itasha could join us on stage, that would be great. Oh, perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to step off. It's really nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
Likewise. Yes, I'm Itasha Cave, one of the co-founders of Opus 12 Incorporated. And we are creating a technology that will convert carbon dioxide emissions into useful products. These products can become things like jet fuel or diesel fuel or even polymers. And so we can create carbon negative components of household products as well as building materials, and then carbon neutral fuels. And we do this conversion by using metal catalysts and electricity. So as we continue to build a world in which we have carbon-free renewable electricity, we can utilize that renewable electricity to make carbon negative and carbon neutral products.
Where is the camera? I don't see it. There we are.
You can see in our picture here where we've built our prototype in our lab in Berkeley, and we're also working with Lawrence Berkeley National Lab as part of the Cal Testbed program. And we're really excited to be working with them. They will do a whole range of characterization and testing and validating our system to make it stronger, more robust. And as we scale up, we can start to reduce costs by creating more robust materials that can last for 10,000 up to 50,000 hours. So thank you, really excited to be here.
Sorry for that delay there. Thank you, Itasha. That was wonderful. It's really great to hear about Opus 12 and the growth of your company, because I've been hearing about it since my arrival in California 2 years ago. And we're really delighted to have you as part of the Cal Testbed cohort. Okay. And so if we could bring up Joseph Gallegos from Umida AG. He will be our next speaker. And Joseph, I hope I pronounced your name properly. Oh, you sound like you're muted, Joseph.
My mic says
there you
on.
go. I can hear you now.
Okay, and we just need a new slide.
Yeah, the slide will be coming up in just a moment. Lauren will pull it up. There we go. And I will exit stage left. Thank you.
Excellent. Joseph Gallegos, founder and president of Umida AG. We're working on, we work out of the Central Valley, Fresno, Turlock, Madera area. And this quote, the first trillionaire will be made in climate change technology, which always excites. The big picture going for is converting 240 terawatts of power to variable switch this large capacity to help solve the duck curve, or what a lot of times what's called, variable spikes in generation of either solar or wind power, or worse yet, the curtailment of that type of renewable energy where it's actually just turned off. And how we do it is with agricultural water. Ag typically has required 72 hours of consensually on watering within the orchard environment. And with our technology is that we switch that to 5-minute increments in the middle of the day, any time of the day. So it becomes very flexible in the way that energy can be utilized as an industrial load to help relieve some of that stress that overcapacity in the renewable energy market. And think of it as we're using the soil as a sort of a battery capacitor. So it's just being able to absorb that energy for irrigation when there's an overabundance of it and flex around with that. Now, the driving factor behind our technology is the water savings. So on the farm, we're delivering water subsurfacely and cutting water consumption by 50% over drip irrigation. That has a direct relationship to the energy savings, which is the economic driver and what we're testing at Cal Testbed and at UCR and within the orange orchards with that whole team there. Ag water is the hair on fire issue in California, where policy changes are driving water sustainability, which is a good thing. But it also means that 1.25 million acres of ag land are going to have to retire if new technology isn't developed. That means 170,000 jobs will be lost in these disadvantaged communities, as well as $7 billion in economic activity. So that water policy is what we're solving for at the front end, but the byproduct is this flexible energy demand, which I think is really cool because we're solving for one issue for the California economy, but it's also solving the energy issue. Now, besides the Cal Testbed, quantifying this energy savings and this flexibility, we also have a demonstration site going in with Olam International. They're a big international commodity traders of vegetable and nuts and spices. In this case, we're installing in an almond orchard actually next week, and a pistachio orchard the following week. And we have 2 additional ones that we're planning for near renewable energy plants to really test out and hone in this curtailment model, where when there's an overcapacity for the grid, that they can actually push it to us for the irrigation cycles. Our ideal partners going forward, investors that are interested in the negative wholesale pricing arbitrage that curtailment presents, balance authorities that need some way to smooth out the overcapacity spikes, and off-takers with PPA contracts that have curtailment risk.
Terrific.
So that's my
Thank you so much, Joseph. We're really excited to have you as part of the cohort. Our next speaker is Burnett Brown from Green Tech Motors. And if I could invite Burnett to come up to the stage. And I believe that we have worked out our technical difficulties with our moderator, and she will be joining us to provide some framing for the panel after Burnett and give us a couple of slides herself. So Burnett, if you would.
Very good. I'm honored to be here. I'm part of the Green Tech Motors team. I want to give a big shout out to my colleague, Frank Eichstedt, who is logged in from Houston, Texas. And he is one who's contributed immensely to this technology. So as you can tell from the name, GTM makes electric motors, specifically very high efficiency density integrated electric motor and drive systems that are optimized for size, weight, and efficiency. And our team started out as a band of aerospace engineers working out of a garage naturally. This particular garage near Boeing's famous Phantom Works facility in Seal Beach, where most of the team worked. The innovation that we have is efficiency density, or more specifically, high efficiency density, which means that we pack a very high amount of efficiency into a very compact and lightweight electric motor package. And we do that by using a very novel winding architecture and an innovative magnetics design. The technology can be adapted to a whole wide range of applications, refrigeration, HVAC. We've even met with the Air Resources Board for electric vehicles. It can even be water pumps, high efficiency density wind generators. So high efficiency density is the key. Interestingly enough, we often see electric motors overlooked in clean energy strategies. And I think that's because electric motors are largely invisible to most people. They have been accurately described as the invisible workhorses that drive the global economy. They use a staggering amount of electricity worldwide. So total electricity consumption is about 20 trillion kilowatt hours. Electric motors consume about 10.5 trillion. So that's over half. That means that half of all power plants in the world operate just to run electric motors. They are the single largest consumer of electricity of any end use. And as you can imagine, they're also one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions. And so even modestly higher efficiency motors could reduce GHG emissions by 29 gigatons by 2030, according to the International Energy Agency. Specifically for us, in terms of our technology, the pain point we relieve is what we call the dimensional incompatibility barrier. This is a barrier that blocks retrofits for very high efficiency motors like ours. Conventional motors, induction motors are maxed out. They've reached their limitations as a technology, so the industry needs some advanced technology development. The problem with induction motors is, in order to get to these high efficiencies, you have to add large amounts of additional iron and steel and copper. And when you do that, they become heavier, they become more bulky. They no longer fit into the motor enclosures. And so you have to re-engineer the motor enclosures, use cranes, picks, whatever, forklifts, additional reinforcement structure. So that creates a major barrier to, a mother lode of efficiency improvement opportunities. It's a major barrier to replacing the existing stock of inefficiency motors, which also means that is a missed opportunity or a challenge for GHG emissions as well. As far as the question of commercialization, we have been very disciplined from day one in our customer development. We've been close to the customer in all of the various application categories. We've been looking at their needs, their pain points, and in terms of our next steps, it's essentially to secure funding to build operating prototypes. We have about a dozen or so pending requests to test our technology. So we're looking forward. In particular, I do want to say we are very excited to work with Sadrul. He has exceptional experience in the field of electric motor and drive systems that go back decades. So we're thrilled about that. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Burnett. I really appreciate it. I see Stephanie, we've worked out our technical challenges and you're up on stage. And we're very glad to have you. Lauren is going to pull up the 2 slides that you are going to present, and then I'll step off stage left and let you take it away.
Thank you, Tinley. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Tinley, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
right.
you.
Well, as Tinley says, my name is Stephanie Yanchinski. I'm Director of Entrepreneurial Programs at the Resnick Sustainability Institute at Caltech. One of the most important programs that I run is the Rocket Fund. Now, the Rocket Fund is supported by California's 6 major utilities. And what it does is provide non-equity grants covering the design, building, and installation of prototypes. This kind of funding allows you to test your technology with a potential customer or strategic partner, and in the course of the demonstration, assemble the all-important data that will de-risk your technology. I was attending the earlier session, actually the session before this, and we're talking about 5 stages of the Valley of Death that have been identified, the Rocket Fund really tackles the earliest, most risky stage. So this is a program that addresses one of the critical needs in the life of a clean tech startup, and that's the need for money to build the commercial prototypes and demonstrate that the technology works in the real world. And the gap that the Rocket Fund fills is this famous so-called Valley of Death, where many companies today unfortunately fail. And that's pictured on the slide here. If you look at the black lines, that tells you what happens. There's a big dip in the middle. Now, this lies between funding of academic research or the garage invention and the early product that will attract investment and potential customers. Now, if the company is lucky enough to secure championship support, perhaps with government agencies or investors or big corporations or strategic grant partners such as the Electric Power Research Institute, and if they can secure funding for prototype capital, you can see that the risky period is shortened considerably, and that's shown on this slide by the red dotted line. Unfortunately, there is still not enough money to support such demonstration activities. Now, California is in the forefront. Definitely CalTest SPED and CalSeed are awesome examples of this forward-thinking policy. But two reports that came out in August of this year, published by the Columbia University Center on Global Energy Policy and the respected think tank Data for Progress, highlighted the urgent need here in the US to accelerate innovation in clean tech if we are to prevent climate disaster. And they also gave prescriptions for government action. And most importantly for today's panel, these reports stated that underfunding of demonstration projects is particularly acute here, since private capital is really leery of investing in high-risk projects where probably the knowledge spillovers are not going to benefit them. Right now, only 5% of federal energy R&D spending of $9 billion a year goes to demonstration projects, and most of that goes into advanced nuclear. So these reports together recommended that the amount be increased to a whopping $5 billion per year by 2025. And they also suggested that loan banks be set up, independent loan banks be set up to finance this. So today, we are going to look at the situation on the ground. All of that's very well, but what are companies now facing with this so-called Valley of Death? And what are the companies' needs? How are they facing these challenges? And really how we in the clean tech community can help. So you've heard the presentations. Now I'm going to skip right forward to the questions. Now, today we're facing the COVID crisis, economic uncertainty, changes in the federal administration, just to name a few of our challenges. That means that the usual progress of being able to move out into the field, form strategic partnerships to be able to demonstrate and test our technologies, some of it's being put on hold, some of it is actually being canceled. So first question is, what do you feel are the major challenges that clean tech entrepreneurs face as they move forward to commercialization? And I'm going to turn to Dawood first of all and ask, what do you feel are your major challenges?
Lauren's inviting all of the panelists up onto stage now.
Okay, hello. Hi, Stephanie, good to see you.
Yes, good to see you. Yep.
As you mentioned, actually, surviving this Valley of Death is kind of crucial for all of our as entrepreneurs, specifically in the early stage with this COVID-19, situation. And for us as the ALD Technical Solution, since we are directly working with the utilities, and by nature, this kind of a technology working with this utilities is not fast enough compared to other technologies. Having this COVID-19 is adding extra kind of a delay on our process and having a pilot demonstration in the real field. That is one of the things that we're clearly feeling at this moment for our technology development.
And are you finding that your project was very long-term. Are you finding that utilities are a little bit more hesitant than you might have expected to help you?
That's one, and also on top of that, with this COVID-19 situation, because our technology is hardware testing and application, that's also another parameter adding the situation. It's not software technology that we can do through the day, we have to do it in the field working, and that's also adding with COVID-19 situation. So
for you, finding the demonstration money is absolutely critical right now, isn't it? Because you need to install a certain amount of your particular technology to be able to demonstrate it. Correct. Real field application, as well as having a chance to do demonstration, actually, to pilot run in the real field. So let's turn to Jonathan. What do you think is your major challenge?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So I think one of the things that I think is really interesting, I think about almost all of our technologies that are on the panel today, is that we're all trying to address really serious climate-related issues, which I think is really critically important for moving our country forward. And most of that involves hard tech, like Dawood saying. It's not necessarily software innovations. It's really hard tech, materials or hardware or motor technology. All that stuff really takes a long time, and the demonstration of it, I think from Coreshell's perspective, especially in the battery space, it's really challenging. There's a lot of a chicken and egg, right? So it's show me what you got first before I'm going to pay you any money to do that, and then once you but you need money to be able to get to those kind of proof of concepts and demonstrations and pilots, right? So it's exactly kind of what you're saying, Stephanie, is that you have to kind of take things step by step. From us, we've been actively going out and searching the market and talking to folks so that we stay in touch with the customer's key needs and really address them directly with our product. But again, it's really convincing them to try on something that could be potentially groundbreaking, but is still early in their development cycle. So I think more funding that's directly related to that, especially things like the Cal Test Bed, which is showing proof that these groundbreaking early stage technologies can really be effective and can be validated and can move them into pilot demonstrations. I think more of that stuff is really critically needed.
Absolutely. Etosha?
Yeah, I would agree with what was said previously. I mean, I think, one challenge maybe wasn't directly mentioned related to COVID is that we've had to definitely socially distance our employees and really rethink how work is structured. And I think that's, both has been a challenge and an opportunity to really, think about how can we be efficient and work within the COVID world. And same has happened with our customers. We've had, things changed. There was some nervousness at the beginning of COVID, which is now seems to evolve more into let's make this happen. Let's reinvent our infrastructure. So there's new challenges, but also new opportunities that we're able to be strategic and rethink how we are deploying our technology.
Yeah, certainly investment has backed away from backing hard science. It's actually coming in much later than it did before. So we're going to rely on government programs like CalSeed and CalTestBed much more. And we want the budgeting for that to really not be annual, but to be longer term, because our technology take longer to develop. And so we need that kind of consistent funding. Joseph, what do you think?
So with COVID, let me tell you advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that I deal a lot with the Central Valley, which is it's pretty long. It's 400 miles long, and there's a lot of different irrigation districts that I have to deal with, and what are called GSAs. With COVID, everything's gone virtual, so all the board meetings are virtual, and that allows me to move around the state really well to listen in on the issues at that particular location, and then the next hour I'm 200 miles away virtually because of that flexibility. So that's where I found the advantage with. And then hard tech, Hard tech is a big issue. What I found to help my company move along is I found partners that were outside of my particular area to help fund the development of the product. And what I mean by that is we landed a grant with SC Johnson that makes Ziploc bags, and they were looking for a company to invest and to recycle plastic so they can offset their plastic volumes. And they really liked our technology and how we utilize plastic, and then we could utilize recycled plastic. And so they gave us $140,000 to make sure that recycled plastic was part of our value chain or part of our infrastructure. And so that's how we work. We've been working around different ways to bring our technology to the forefront by working with other partners that are not necessarily directly our end customers or our strategic partners, but that have a strategic advantage of partnering up with us. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the power. Well, we deal with a lot with water, but it's the power in the power industry that actually pays for our technology for the farmer. So.
Mm-hmm. So I can see you're being very creative actually in being able to bridge this terrible gap that we have at the moment. Key entrepreneurial kind of approach, exactly. Burnett.
So our biggest challenge has been funding our prototype. I think it's widely acknowledged that Silicon Valley is the clean tech investment capital of the world. And what our experience has been is while there is a tendency and interest, a lot of that has been software focused because I think Silicon Valley is, investors have experience with software. So hardware is longer returns. And so there's been some real challenges there. We've had angel investors, florist, a landscaper, a construction company manager, and the issue, our experience with angel investors is they don't necessarily understand the grid or the electric utility infrastructure or policies. So that's been an issue. So that's primarily it. We have, for example, we've stayed very close to the customer. We have probably a dozen who are waiting for our operating prototype to be tested, including we had Coca-Cola, a Green Proving Ground, a generator company, U.S. Air Conditioning, a whole variety of them. So that's been our challenge, is securing the funding. And once we do that, we will, and of course, CalTestBed is a big part of doing some of that testing. But once we do that, we will move on to the demonstration and pilot phase. Thank you.
Well, the next question really, I think, incorporates some of what you've been saying, but perhaps we can distill it into really an ask, if you like, about what you need right now, what that would look like. So what is the dream scenario for you as a clean energy entrepreneur in terms of financial support, maybe in terms of some kind of strategic partnership that can accelerate you forward, and maybe in clearing the way to the pathway to commercialization? You've all talked about it a little bit, but maybe you can distill it into something that is very clear to our audience, and it might give some suggestions about how we can engage with you. So let's start with Burnett, since you're at the tail end of the last one.
Yeah. So the dream scenario is, I think, obviously it was, we have a great strategy here that was explained by Commissioner, who is the vice chair here. And I would say our dream scenario is basically to move up that TRL ladder. I'd love to see a system basically focused on prototypes and progressively moving up that. I don't think one is funded right now, although I think CalSeed is an extraordinary program, as is CalTestBed. But the notion of partners with demonstration companies, I think Sean Garvey and Janet Cohen have laid out a very compelling strategy in terms of building customers through that approach. Again, that's not really what we see as the problem. What we see is getting the technology, the prototypes built, and you have to have multiple prototypes, and then they need to be tested. And frankly, I think we probably would have been in the market some years ago if we had a system in place for that. But so yeah, that's our dream scenario.
So are the Department of Energy grants of any help to you? Because they do tend to certainly be larger scale and longer term.
Yeah, that's SBIR. I think in my note to you, one of the things we were interested in is possibly using the Cal Testbed voucher model for grants. You know, we have a very small bandwidth, and we were working closely with the Department of Energy, actually the GSA and the Green Proving Ground, and the Department of Energy with the HIT program. Unfortunately, they had a TRL-7 requirement, but they were very aggressive and eager to have us come aboard. But again, yeah, well, so as far as DOE, we have applied, but really haven't, you know, really been able to get much traction there. And part of it is, I mean, there are 13 cabinet agents. I think there's like 15, 20 SBIR programs. They have all different cycles. Many of the times the SBIR programs have specific technologies that they're looking for. And so then you have to sift through 20 pages. And when you really want just a technology or a funding program that tracks for what you want to do, rather than take your technology and twist it in essentially a round, in a square block into a round hole, which takes quite a bit of energy. And every time I write one of these proposals, a little piece of my soul goes out. You put so much effort into it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely productivity time lost. Yes, I just wanted to interject that the Rocket Fund, one of the things we pride ourselves on is that we're very flexible. What we do is we support your strategic goals. We don't have an overarching kind of strategic approach that you have to fit into. So I just want to say that we're one of the few sources of funding that can provide that. Etosha, what would be your dream scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I think Burnett really nailed it in his description. I mean, the way I was going to characterize is that I think if there were a world in which public funding kind of aligns in the way that private funding is given, where you have all these, you know, these like tranches of funding to get you to the next major milestone,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you meet that milestone with technology and business case and commercialization, then unlocks the next round of funding that can get you to like the next milestone. So I agree, like you know, with a lot of the granting agencies, there's not interconnectedness. So you are applying for one-off things, and you're kind of partitioning your technology, getting a specific grant to work on that that particular item. Longer term vision too, I wish, and in some ways there is this, but if there were more procurement tied with these early stage R&D grants, or some type of maybe procurement allocation or procurement, like government level procurement, maybe with the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, that would be really helpful to get investors on board, that if the technology works to a certain performance level, there will be a customer through the federal government that will, or the state, the state of California. This is a big of a player as the federal government in many ways. Can purchase it. That would be really huge. And if we look at our major innovations throughout our history, the federal government has played a huge role, either through the Department of Defense or you know, with the railroad systems and Department of Transportation. So there's been a lot of early stage procurement of game-changing technologies that we use to now. Like the internet is one example of it. You know, getting that started was definitely a government project. So I think we can do so much more with that.
And again, I just wanted to point out probably what you all know is that CalC does have a two-tiered, two-staged offering actually. So you can take advantage of that. You get an earlier grant of $150,000 to prove your technology, and then get $450,000 to be able to actually pitch and develop it further. There's also, under the EPIC program, there's Bridge that moves into RAMP. So just want to say that in California, at least, we do have some of that stage connected funding that you're talking about. Dawood? Your dream scenario. Either in financial support or working with a partner to accelerate you forward, maybe clearing the way to pathway to commercialization.
Okay, Stephanie, sorry, you just broke up last 10 seconds. Your question is about what is the dream scenario
for your company at this stage. Yep.
Yes. For us, dream scenario is that there is a step between proof of concept and commercialization, and that step is that you have to do testing and qualification. And for that one, testing and qualification demonstration, CalTestBed is one of the major tools. I believe it can help, for companies such as our company to go to the commercialization step. Another thing, I agree with what you guys, all of other people, they mentioned about funding. On top of that, I believe we have an organization such as San Diego Clean Tech that there are experienced people. They are supporting companies such as our company to pass these steps to commercialization. And I believe combination of a funding and also mentorship is crucial for companies to have a successful and commercialization. But about the ideal situation is that having a support grant and also continuous, mentorship is very important.
Mm-hmm. I'm just mindful of the time, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think everyone here has really touched on the grant side and the public funding side a lot. One thing that I want to kind of expand upon what Dawood was saying, one of the dream scenarios for Coreshell is corporate and strategic partnerships, right? Getting the corporates in the door, looking at our technology, and that can be really challenging, especially with the size mismatch of small companies really working with these large corporate behemoths. There can be a lot of benefit, and we've already experienced it with New Energy Nexus. We're a CalSeed recipient as well as CalTestBed, and the networking opportunities to really bring corporates to the door and have them have the kind of early stage startup showcased in a way so that they can be aware of what the innovation is happening and kind of work step in step with these early innovations towards commercialization. That would be our dream scenario, is to do that. One thing that I'll kind of point out that I wish happened more often, the LG Chem battery challenge was a great example, I think, of New Energy Nexus working in collaboration with a large corporation to do a formalized program to kind of source innovation that I think could be beneficial for both, the large corporates as well as the early stage startups, is to kind of bring a little bit more structure to this, corporate relationship building that startups have a lot of challenge doing.
Yeah, great suggestion. Joseph?
Grants and government support, because that's all soft money. So it's it retains the equity for a founder to be able to grow the business and create value before they're giving up any type of equity to a venture capitalist. For the that was in the voucher system. That was a really great way to help us prove our technology and to start to quantify those numbers. The next step, I think the bridge program is going to definitely be something that we would like to look into, because for a utility to utilize our product or to be able to offer rebates and conservation credits off of it, they need to have a site that's 20 acres. And with the CalTestBed, it only funded 1 acre. So that difference is going from 160,000 to 400,000. But with that idea that it's taking the quantification and just expanding it to where it's a volume that a utility can then take it and then incorporate it into their product line as a rebate program, and then grow the company from there. So, but I really love the grants program. Once again, it's just because it's soft money.
Yep.
So.
Tenley, I think we're at time, but if we've got time, I'd like to ask the others one more quick question. I work very closely with the utilities, as you know. are large supporters of my program. I would like to hear from, Joseph has come up with a great suggestion, from the other four, what they would like the utilities to do. Do you have time? Do we have time just to quickly ask them that question?
Yes, certainly. And Stephanie, I wanted to bring up your Rocket Fund slide as well so that you could talk a little bit about that. So once we finish with this question, we'll bring that slide up and you can address that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's start with Burnett again. Quickly, what could the utilities do? What should they be doing?
We've been very fortunate to work with Paul Delaney of Southern California Edison. He's been terrific for 5 years. He's been a great mentor. You know, primarily it's funding. They can do the testing, so I think they have a good program. But again, we need to get the funding to the prototype to essentially really take advantage of those programs. Through Blue Tech Valley, we met with PG&E. So the utilities here in California were very fortunate, having a heavy focus on clean energy, great public policy. There's a great opportunity, but you know, we're real thirsty in this valley of death, if you will, in terms of getting this prototype built. So anyway, that's what I would say. I would say we're very fortunate, and I can't say enough about Paul Delaney and how he's encouraged us, but I don't want to take up too much of your time here.
Okay, David, what could the utilities do? What should they be doing?
The same as Burnett, our company also has been supported by utilities in Southern California. We are right now in discussion with 2 companies in Southern California, and they are quite receptive for our technology. And I believe one of the areas that we can work with the utilities, especially in California, is not only, you know, funding, if they can support us for logistic or for, you know, on-site application. And also the technology we are developing are kind of a first of a kind technologies. And if we can work and have a consultation with them, because even though we are kind of developing new technology, they are in this field and they are really in the field. If we can kind of direct and consultation with them, it will help to deliver, you know, what it can be feasible in the real world. Actually, that is another thing I believe we can work more with utilities
more closely. Yeah.
Yes.
Tosha?
Yeah, I think you know, just encouraging more programs through the EPIC program that, you know, like Cal Testbed and these other programs. I think these have been great for early stage companies, and as we start to grow our technology, I hope that there'll be more down the pipeline. And also, I think, you know, sometimes utilities can seem, well, they are very big and can be kind of hard to understand, like who's the right person to reach out to really start to understand how your technology will integrate. So any kind of additional information transfer or relationship building opportunities would be great.
But you've already actually been partnering with at least a couple of utilities. After you got the Rocket Fund grant, I think you were working with SoCalGas, am I right?
Yeah, we've worked with SoCalGas and PG&E, so we've great opportunity. So
yeah, there was a matching grant opportunity there that we could tap into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we have had a really great experience with utilities.
So I want to put a bit of a positive spin on utilities because they tend to be very remote and people think of them as being bureaucratic and not able to deal with small companies, and they can. Jonathan.
Yeah, I think what I was going to bring up, something that Atosha already kind of mentioned, is the scale, right? So utilities are really working on this huge scale. And so for early stage startups, demonstrations, it'd be nice to have like more bite-sized demonstration projects or kind of like smaller demonstration sites where an early stage technology could really prove itself. And then, you know, things like the Rocket Fund, which allows earlier stage innovations to be seen and followed by these larger utilities, so that once they do become more mature, they're already more aware of them and more familiar with the technology.
It's good to hear. Tinley, did you want to give me a minute just to talk about the Rocket Fund?
Yes, I want to thank the panelists, all of you. Thank you very much for your participation. It's incredibly valued. And I did want to just reiterate that the Incubate Energy application process, they're working with 13 different utilities to precisely do this kind of demonstration work. So I want to encourage all the Cal testbed companies to look into that. If your next stage is looking at a demonstration project, these are funded projects with utilities. So Stephanie, if you want to talk about
Sure,
rocket
very
fund.
quickly. Yeah, I certainly underscore that you should look at the Incubate Energy program. We tend to support companies at an earlier stage. So as I said at the very beginning, companies that have come out of the garage or come out of academia are looking to design their prototype. They may not even have a commercial design, looking to then build it, install it. The other things that we'll cover are equipment purchase that often aren't covered by grants, as well as UL certification. That's something that investors expect you to have, customers expect you to have very early on, very expensive, and we will cover that. So the Rocket Fund, as it happens, is also open for applications. We close at the beginning of March, but I would encourage you to take a look at it and see if you fit. We have very broad scope in looking at technologies. We tend to look at certainly ones that benefit the utility and the grid, but also we have something called sustainability, and that covers everything else, including water energy. And it was nice to hear about a water energy company actually presenting it on the panel this morning. So if you have any further questions, don't hesitate. Tenley has my connections just to get in touch. We'd like to be very hands-on with people who are interested.